All right, y'all. I realized last night when I finished my show that the two scripts I wrote for the Todd Blanche affair, I did them out of order. I actually did the one that was supposed to have been tonight. I did that last night. But just keep that in mind when you listen tonight. So on Wednesday morning, a man will walk into the United States Senate and ask to be confirmed as the Attorney General of the United States, the people's lawyer. He will be the highest law enforcement officer in the land. And in his briefcase, he is going to carry the paper, or whether or not he'll have this paper, will be a 60 or 56 page ruling handed down just this Monday by a federal judge about the biggest deal he ever engineered in office. Her findings and her words. The lawsuit behind it was brought for an improper purpose. There was never a case or controversy. It was an attempt to manipulate the judicial process. And the settlement it produced had, quote, no viable basis in law or fact. Now, it happens that in Kentucky, we once sent a lawyer to that very office. This was a Louisville man, a friend of Abraham Lincoln's. It was a man that lent him law books before anybody knew Lincoln's name. He stood at Lincoln's deathbed on the morning of April 15th, 1865. Just think about that. And when the next president turned against equal rights for the freed slaves, the freedmen, that Kentuckian did something almost extinct in Washington. He resigned, the most powerful legal office in America, rather than lend it his name, and then lost an election after election back home, rather than trim his convictions. So, one of the most powerful men in America resigned his office when Andrew Johnson came in and was slashing and burning all the civil rights efforts that James Speed had enacted with and under Abraham Lincoln. And when he came back home to Kentucky, he kept losing time after time again when he ran for office because he would not give up his convictions about civil rights for the freedmen. And again, his name was James Speed. And tonight, we're going to hold these two attorneys general up to the same light, because the difference between them is the difference between a republic and a racket. Y'all, it's that time. Let's go.
Standing for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Built upon the shoulders of the Constitution, rule of law, and the animating principle that we are all created equal. I need to hear a hallelujah, though I'm not considered a believer by some. I still believe in the warmth of heaven come. I need the rapture I feel when my feet touch the green, green grass of home. Then I know I have reached the valley of kingdom come. And when I reach that valley, I need to see you there, because we...
Welcome to the Hillbilly Think Tank with Spencer Keck. I am the educated hillbilly, and no, that's not an oxymoron. Don't call me a moron. There have been educated, erudite, and emancipated hillbillies in Kentucky ever since my kith and kin came through the Cumberland Gap with Daniel Boone and the other long hunters on their quest for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness right here. So, like I said, I'm Spencer Keck, retired Navy doc, combat veteran, current public school teacher, and currently a candidate for magistrate on the Hardin County Fiscal Court, District 3. I'm on your ballot November 3rd. And tonight's question is as old as the Republic. Whose lawyer is the Attorney General? That's what we're going to sort out tonight. So, first segment. What happened Monday in the judge's words? First, Monday's ruling. And I'm going to do this almost entirely in the judge's own words because they need no seasoning from me. You'll remember the backstory from this show, the episode we did on the $1.776 billion fund. In January, the president sued the IRS, his own IRS, an agency he commands, for $10 billion over the leak of his tax returns. In May, his Justice Department settled the case with him. The settlement created a $1.776 billion taxpayer-funded anti-weaponization fund to compensate the president's allies who claim they were persecuted. And a memo quietly added a day after the announcement, signed by Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, purported to forever bar and preclude the government from ever pursuing tax claims or a range of other claims against the president, his sons, and his companies, all of his children. Permanent audit immunity by memo. 35 former federal judges, think about that number, petitioned the court to reopen the matter, calling the arrangement collusion and a fraud on the court. And on Monday, United States District Judge Kathleen Williams agreed in a 56-page order that reads like a controlled burn. Her findings: there was never adverseness between the parties. There was never a case or controversy. And there was never a question as to who would prevail. The lead plaintiff and the government are one and the same, a fully realized unitary interest. The suit, she wrote, was brought for an improper purpose to gain the imprimatur of judicial legitimacy for a settlement that had no viable basis in law or fact. An attempt to use the court to provide some legitimacy to an agreement to confer immunity to people and entities affiliated with the president, and to earmark billions of dollars from American taxpayers to redress grievances not defined in the law. And my favorite detail, y'all, tucked in a footnote, the Educated Hillbillies Exhibit A. The funds amount $1,776,000,000. 1776. The judge noticed, too. That number, she wrote, speaks of a branding effort rather than a deliberate and thoughtful calculation of damages. They priced a raid on the Treasury as a patriotic slogan. You cannot make it up. She ordered sanctions, including money paid to those former judges, referred the president's private lawyer to the Florida bar for possible discipline, and directed her order to ward the bar committees where Blanche and his deputy are members, writing that the two should have recused themselves entirely since as private attorneys, they had represented the very people who stood to benefit. Now, precision, because I promised. She did not formally strike every clause of the private agreement. He footnoted that its enforceability wasn't before her. What she did was bar the parties from using, offering, admitting, or citing that settlement in any official proceeding, which, as the legal analysts put it, voids it in every way that matters. A deal you can never use is a trophy that you can never cash. Next segment, the nominee and Wednesday's question. Now, who is Todd Blanche? Before he ran the Justice Department, he was the president's personal criminal defense attorney, the man beside him at the defense table in the New York trial. Then he moved into the department that was prosecuting adjacent to his old client, rose to acting attorney general, engineered this settlement, and 16 days after it was announced, the president nominated him to hold the office permanently. Wednesday, the Senate Judiciary Committee takes up that nomination. And here's the twist that lawyers are chewing on. Chewing good. The judge's order bars the parties from citing or relying on that settlement in any official proceeding. And under federal laws, a Senate hearing is an official proceeding. So commentators are openly asking, and I frame it as the question it is, not a settled fact, whether the nominee can even defend the centerpiece of his tenure at his own confirmation hearing without crossing a federal judge. And the department's bind runs deeper. Blanche has told Congress the fund is, in his words, dead, dead, dead. But verified by CNN when the judge asked him to submit a signed statement saying the fund was no more, he refused. And if the department appeals Monday's ruling, its lawyers would have to stand up in court and argue the settlement was legitimate, defending the very deal their boss swears is dead. Dead when Congress asks, alive enough to fight for on appeal. Pick one, counselor. Next segment, the line. Their side fairly. Now, the fair hearing, as always, and parts of this are, genuinely. First, a real deal. If you look at this carefully, a real wrong was done to Donald Trump. A contractor leaked his tax returns. That's a crime. The leaker was prosecuted, and any citizen, president or not, has a legitimate grievance there. Second, Blanche's defense of the audit provision is that it's not immunity, but purely retrospective, closing the books on past matters, not licensing future ones. Third, the fund is, they say, abandoned, dropped after blowback. And fourth, and this one I'll celebrate rather than merely concede, look at who's asking the hard questions. Republican Senator Bill Cassidy. No American should be above the law, not even the president, and maybe even particularly the president, said Cassidy. Senator Cornyn, not prepared to vote for him until I get clarity. Senator Murkowski, I don't like it. That's not a partisan ambush. That's the immune system of the Senate showing a pulse, finally. Here's my answer, and it's short. A real grievance entitles you to a real lawsuit. An adversarial one before a judge against a party that can actually fight back. It does not entitle you to sue yourself. Settle with yourself. Pay yourself and your friends from the Treasury and immunize your family by memo. And the judge's finding is precisely that. The grievance was used as the hook for all that. As for purely retrospective, friends, a permanent bar on auditing a sitting president's taxes is not a technicality. It's the one window into whether the most powerful man alive paid what he owed, bricked over by his own defense lawyer. If the deal was righteous, defend it in open court. They won't say the fund is dead under a signature, and they can't defend the deal without contradicting themselves. That's not law. That's a shell game with a flag on it. Next segment. James Speed, the Kentucky Standard. Now, let me tell you what the office is supposed to look like, and forgive me a little home state pride, because the Standard was set right there in D.C. by a Kentuckian. James Speed of Louisville, born 1812 at Farmington. The house still stands. You can visit it. His brother, Joshua Speed, was Abraham Lincoln's closest friend in the world. And when Lincoln visited Louisville in 1841, he and James talked law nearly every single day. And James lent the future president books from his own law library. Think about that. A Louisville lawyer helping stock the mind that would write the Emancipation Proclamation. And James Speed spent his whole career choosing the hard right over the easy wrong. In the 1840s, in a slave state, decades before the war, he stood in the Kentucky House and fought against expanding slavery. Then he led the push to write a gradual emancipation into the state constitution. He lost, kept going. When the war came, he was the spine of the pro-union forces in the Kentucky Senate, commanding the Louisville Home Guard, holding this Commonwealth in the Union by will and persuasion. And here's the honest part, because I don't sell marble statues on this show. Speed wasn't born perfect. When Lincoln issued the preliminary Emancipation Proclamation, Speed, alone in the Kentucky Senate, objected, preferring a slower, state-led, compensated path. He was wrong, and he came to know it. By 1864, he had grown into a full-throated advocate of abolition. Think about that. He became a full-throated advocate of abolition and racial equality. Growth, friends, it used to be allowed. In December 1864, Lincoln made Speed Attorney General of the United States. He watched the 13th Amendment pass. And on the morning of April 15th, 1865, James Speed of Louisville stood at the bedside of his murdered friend. Then came his test. The new president, Andrew Johnson, turned the government against the freed men, all these freed slaves. The new president turned the government against them, against everything the war had purchased. And Speed, holding the most powerful legal office in America, with every incentive to keep his head down and his seat warm in order to keep his job, nope, he resigned. Walked away in July 1866 rather than let his name legitimize it, and went straight to the chair convention opposing Johnson's policies. Then he came home to Kentucky and ran for Senate, for vice president, for Congress, and lost and lost and lost because he would not soften his views on Black Americans' rights just to fit the times. He chose his principles over every office he ever wanted, taught law in Louisville, and died in 1887. He's buried at Cave Hill Cemetery in Louisville. You can visit it. The office never owned him. He was never any man's lawyer but the people's lawyer. Next segment, the contract and home. So hold them side by side, the two nominees, 160 years apart. One was the president's friend and never once his personal lawyer. He was the law's lawyer. And when the presidency and the law parted ways, he went with the law and paid for it with every ambition that he ever had in his life. The other was the president's personal defense attorney and a federal judge has now found in black ink that the signature achievement of his tenure was a manufactured case designed to move taxpayers billions and meant immunity for his old client. One resigned power to keep his oath. The other, the judges found, should never have touched the matter at all. The Attorney General of the United States, not the Attorney General of the President. Every courthouse in this country runs on that distinction. And so, friends, does every county, because the principle is exactly the same at every altitude. The county attorney serves the county, not the judge executive's buddies. A magistrate serves the precincts, not the paving contract. Now, think about it. You give me that chance to take the fiscal court version of the oath. Doesn't matter whose lawyer comes along and wants to try to buy us off, whose servant of whatever project comes along wants to buy us off. The recusal standard that I have pledged is I pledge myself to the public trust. I'm running on the James Speed rule. The office never owns you, and you never own the office. You hold it in trust for your neighbors, and you hand it back clean. So here's your homework, Hardin County. Wednesday morning, that hearing is public. Watch it. Watch whether the senators, both parties, Cassidy and Cornyn and Murkowski, they gave me some hope this week, ask the people's questions about the fund priced like a bumper sticker, about the audit memo, about the signature he wouldn't give a judge. And if you've got a moment, remember a Louisville lawyer who showed us 160 years ago exactly what the job is. We've met the standard before, Kentucky. We set that standard. Let's demand it again. We must. It's time. Now, y'all, hopefully you've got 5 calls loaded up on your phone. It's time to bring that up, bring up the 5 calls, and let's all get to work. Right now, this is some serious business that we need to get to. And let's just look at a bit of what it is that I'm talking about. And you can see this. This is public information, nothing to be hidden from the public here. We should all be seeing this. So pull this up here. All right, here is the deposition that's important for us all to know about and talk about on Wednesday. Start making your calls now.
Can you list for me all the girls that you have met and brought to Jeffrey Epstein's house that were under the age of 18?
Check the Foreman Foundation.
I could only recall my family members that were there, and I could not make a list of anyone else because that list that never happened. But I can take off.
I'm talking about during the time that you were working for Jeffrey Epstein.
Right.
Can you list all the girls that you found for Jeffrey Epstein that were under the age of 18 to come work for him in any capacity?
Check the Foreman Foundation.
So I didn't find girls. I didn't
You
look
have
for
them,
girls.
you would choose the word.
Well, no, you don't choose the word. If you have a question, ask it.
List all of the girls that you met and brought to Jeffrey Epstein's home for the purposes of employment that were under the age of 18.
Check the
So we're talking about Todd Blanche going down, because this came before the Todd Blanche trip. It's this deposition here that got her into prison. So go pull it up. Ghislaine Maxwell deposition 2016, full video. This is what landed her, along with Jeffrey, in prison for crimes against underage children. Folks that were not adults, that she procured for Jeffrey Epstein. Now, here is how Blanche then handled that.
You had an opportunity to go down and talk to Ghislaine Maxwell. And then a few days later, she was transferred from a high security prison to a very comfortable,
I mean, that's
a
not
very
true.
comfortable.
It's just not true. She was not in a high security prison. She was transferred from a low security prison to a low security prison. I mean, you're looking at me like that's verifiable.
Well, I don't think at the other prison she had her own room. She had access to a private shower. She could have pet therapy. And
I don't know if any of that is true. I'm not disagreeing with you.
it is true. And you should know it, Mr. Attorney
I should
General.
know that?
You should know.
Whether an inmate has access to her own shower?
No. This is a person of extra special interest to the President of the United States. He's known her.
Todd Blanche was the president's personal attorney. So of course he knows this. We know that. All right. Better weather. Love your comments. Smoke them if you got them. That's right. There's a lighter that has that on there from A Better Way to 2A. Tom Armstrong, thank you for using the correct plural for attorneys general. Irks me when people pluralize the general part of that title. That's right. Or call them general. That pisses me off too. All right. So let's listen a little more.
Why did he send you down to talk
He
to her?
didn't send me. I went. What do you mean? You think President Trump called and asked me to go interview a witness in federal prison? Honestly?
Yes, I do, frankly.
Well,
Because you
you're
know
wrong.
why?
I didn't.
Because the
I didn't.
deal was in. He
I mean, you
needed
could say
somebody
that,
he
but
could
you want
rely.
the
He
truth?
needed somebody he
You
could
want the
rely
truth?
upon to talk to her and say, what would she say if she was asked about Jeffrey Epstein? And you were the perfect choice. And you went down there, and suddenly, shazam! She's out of what is a more confining situation
Every word-
into a much more relaxed federal prison.
Every word that I asked her is recorded and available to you to review. If there's criticisms of the question that I asked her, go ahead and make them. But
Well-
the president did not have anything to do with my choice to go interview Ms. Maxwell. If I wouldn't have went and a career would have went, you would have said, why didn't you go yourself? Just like you expect me to know whether she has access to her own shower.
You
So I
should.
did go.
Everyone in the United States who reads the newspapers know that. I guess you don't, read things like that. This whole hearing, I think, is exposing something, which is, to me, very frightening. You're a very gifted lawyer. But from my perspective, you have very little faith to the Constitution and the people of America, and you're the president's consigliere.
Your perspective is completely wrong, Senator,
Well,
respectfully.
I think the facts will prove me right. Thank you.
So we know the facts will prove him right. That's where we're currently sitting, and that's why we're talking tonight. So, all right, everyone, it's time to call Senator Rand Paul's office, since he's the one that we know is alive for sure. It is time to go on ahead and call Mitch McConnell's office, demand that his people take a message and deliver it to whoever is in that capacity for Mitch. We still haven't seen a real hide nor hair of him. I know that our governor was more explicit today. I just need to go look at the headlines in his call for a real, show of what's going on there. We all have got to insist that we get the reality. All right, y'all. I want you to look at this. I'll close off every night with talk about the troops deployed. Told you about last few days, I've been talking about the one that was wounded. Well, there's another dead. So Iran claims to kill three of our U.S. service members in Kuwait. The Pentagon said there were 0 reports of deaths over the weekend, then announced a new death on Monday. Y'all, the cover up is getting to be really, really dreadful. And we have to look at that carefully. Also, look here. These are men who blocked care for toxin-exposed veterans, then fist bumped each other on camera. We're talking about Danes of Montana with Ted Cruz. This was part of a very serious PACT Act vote. And they were very, happy to have blocked care for toxin-exposed veterans. I want you to remember that. And of course, I lived in Montana for a bit when I worked in the VA, and Ted Daines would never answer his phone. Senator Tester would, but after 7 years in the Senate, he lost his last bid. But Tester was the one I could always get an answer from and immediate action from for veterans. That's just another aside when I worked at the VA in Montana. All right. But when I talk to you about, remembering those deployed, this is what I'm talking about. Y'all, it's time. When this is coming up Wednesday. We've got to keep the pressure on. So it is time now to start getting your phones out, load up that 5 Calls app if you haven't already, and start making your calls to the senators and to Guthrie and to whoever else is your person in the House of Representatives. It's Guthrie here for, of course, Hardin County, but we've got to put the pressure on. We cannot let this pressure up. We cannot have Todd Blanche filling the seat formerly filled by Kentuckian Attorney General James Speed. We have a real legacy to uphold here in this state. And we've got to demand that our senators and representatives uphold that legacy. It's really that easy, okay? So make your calls, flood their email boxes. Heck, if you even are inclined to do some snail mail, even do that. Anything we can to put the pressure on before the Wednesday rolls around, y'all. So I'm Spencer Keck, the Educated Hillbilly, and this has been the Hillbilly Think Tank. Come to a Fiscal Court meeting. Bring your hardest question, whether I earn it or not, I'll answer it. I'll see you there. Keep thinking deeply. And remember, in Kentucky, united we stand, divided we fall. It's just words on a flag. It's the glue that holds us together. Because if we love our neighbors as ourselves and recognize that, yes, we are our brother's keeper and our sister's keeper, that we cannot be divided and we will not fall. Remember everyone deployed overseas. And bless your corazon. That is Spanish for heart. This has been paid for by Spencer Keck. Learn more at SpencerKeckMagistrate.com. Check out.
Kingdom come. And when I reach that valley, I need to see you there. Because we don't need a kingdom, we only need free air. And we don't seek a king, we seek the brotherhood of man. And we won't fight for bondage as we need no king or woman. We will stand undivided because we will raise the fallen. Now I need to hear a hallelujah as we tear down the wall there. I have seen the dream of MLK come true. I have seen Martin's dream of justice alive and whirlwind at Thanksgiving. My family sits down to break bread together with folks of many different races, ethnicities, religions. My family sees Martin's dream and we only judge people by the content of their character, not by the color of their skin. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have seen the dream of MLK come true. I have trusted my life in the hands of many a black brother, a brown brother, and an immigrant brother in the military, and they have saved my life. Countless times I saw Martin's dream alive and well. Many times my destiny was tied with my brother's destiny, as we served our American dream in combat overseas. We did not care what color of skin our warrior brothers had, what adult sexual partner our warrior brothers had, or what religion they practiced or did not practice. Martin said, it must not lead us to distrust all white people from many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny. I have tasted the bittersweet taste of freedom as I held wounded warriors of America, both in battle and when they return home for treatment. I knew then and I know now, freedom is not cheap, but I heard it ring loud and clear. Even after the battle smoke cleared, this made true to me what Martin said. When we allow freedom to ring, when we let it ring from every city and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, great God Almighty, we are free at last. Oh, brothers and sisters, I have seen the dream made us so great. Why would we shut out this dream from our midst now? I was told by another leader that America is the land of opportunity, but we see these opportunities dying with our dreams. Why, America? Why would we let the dream die when we were near the top of the mountain and had the whole world wanting to be us? Brothers and sisters, it is so much better to be loved and respected. That is real power. Now, we want to be the feared bully of our own people and other nations. In the past, I heard fools say they hate us because they hate us. Now I say the rest of the world doesn't want to be us anymore. The rest of the world thinks we have lost our mind and we are the dangerous neighbors that will rob them in their sleep. This is not Martin's dream. Oh, brothers and sisters, I have seen the dream. The dream made us so great. I have seen the dream of MLK come true. I've seen Martin's dream of justice alive and well. When at the dawn's early light, I heard freedom ring. Come all ye children, sing. We must hear freedom ring. This is my American dream. Free at last, great God Almighty, we are free at last. Standing for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, built upon the shoulders of the Constitution, rule of law, and the animating principle that we are all created equal. I need to hear a hallelujah. Though I'm not considered a believer by some, I still believe in the warmth of heaven come. I need the rapture I feel when my feet touch the green, green grass of home. Then I know I have reached the valley of kingdom come. And when I reach that valley, I need to see you there. Because we don't need a kingdom, we only need freedom. And we don't seek a king, we seek the brotherhood of man. And we won't fight for bondage, as we need no king or woman. We will stand undivided, because we will raise the fallen. Now I need to hear a hallelujah as we tear down the wall. The divide between heaven and earth is tears turn to mirth as we walk through the valley of death. And I draw my last breath. I know rapture I feel when I touch the green, green grass of home. Then I know I have reached the hollow where my ancestors roam.
Beans shipping cross country on refrigerated trucks. That's early. They take all cooked than modern bush beans. In the 50s and 60s, convenience became king, and TV did it. Soaking overnight, got laid out. But here's what they didn't say. Old-fashioned means it actually works. Your great-grandfather didn't grow salad runners because they were tender. He grew them because when the bank foreclosed on farms across the